We are now going to begin the measurement and data section, which is Unit 2 in the mathematics part. First section is section M.2.1. We're going to interpret relevant information from tables, charts, and graphs. We want to look at the objectives. The objectives include, but is not limited to, the following examples of knowledge, skills, and abilities. And there are a lot of them, so make sure you understand all of them. Then I want you to go down to the very bottom of the page and look at your keywords. You have a table, the Cartesian coordinates, a line graph, scatter plot, pie chart, bar graph. These last four are different types of graphs that you might be able to see in the medical field. Cartesian coordinates, if you ever had a graphing class, you should understand that part. As you can see from this first sentence, it says, you probably have heard the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, when you're doing a graph, that's pretty well what it is. Now imagine how much information is packed into a data table or a graph. Now on the TEAS test, you will need to understand the various parts of these graphical displays and how to interpret information from tables, charts, and graphs. There are a variety of different graphs. We've already talked about the Cartesian coordinate graphs, the line graphs, scatter plots, pie charts, and bar graphs. These are the keywords that were mentioned earlier. There are other keywords that you need to be familiar with. First one is bivariate. It says most graphs you study will represent the relationship between two sets of data or parameters. These types of graphs are called bivariate. And a particular point on the graph, as you can see here, point A is the coordinates 4, 6. So we start at the origin, which is 0, 0. And we go to the right 4, which is basically the x value. Then we go up 6 to get to the point A. These different quadrants are what the graph is broken up into. Most of your information is going to be in this particular graph here, because on this section coordinates, all your values are positive to the left, to the right, and also positive going up. And you can see it's usually labeled XY. That's not always the case, but generally when you're doing a coordinate system, your x-axis is this one, and your y-axis is this one. In your handouts for this section, we have one on the rectangular or Cartesian coordinate system. This gives you a little bit more information than what's in your TEAS textbook. The origin is the point where the x-axis and the y-axis intersect. All your coordinates are x, then y, like this. Then you can see in each point of the coordinate point represents a relationship between the two variables, x and y. So when you plot a point, xy on the graph, you need to move from the origin in the direction of the horizontal, or x value first, then move in the direction of vertical to get the y value. And where they cross, that's your actual point. And each ordered pair corresponds to exactly one point in the plane and vice versa. And these are different graphs you may see. Some of these may not be necessarily what you will see in a TEAS class, but these are generally the different types of graphs you might see in a math class. In your TEAS textbook, it shows that graphs tell a story and show the relationship between variables. In this graph, it's not just a random collection of points. So we'll consider the graph of Monica's water intake on Saturday. So at 8 a.m. on this particular day, you will see that the x-axis is time. It's broken up into increments of 2 hours. Then on the vertical axis, it's the tens of fluid ounces that she had drunk. So that's our scale. And then you see there's scale here is go from 0 to 2 to 4. And some of our points are not exactly on the multiples of 2, so we have to kind of estimate what we're talking about. But as we can see, the x-axis displays days from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. The y-axis shows the total number of ounces drunk. The scale says tens of fluid ounces, so 2 would represent 20. So that's your scale. So we wanted to find the point for 4 p.m. where Monica had drunk 100 ounces of water. So go over to 4 p.m. and then we go straight up. And we see it is almost exactly on the 10 if we go straight across. So 10 times 10 gives us 100 ounces. If we look at any particular one, she drank another 20 ounces from 4 to 6. So if we go up here, and it's at 120 ounces. So between here and here, she drank 20 ounces from here to here. As we see at 2 p.m., it's a little bit below 8, but how far below 8? So we might have to guess that this is about maybe 7.5 or 7.6, and then go up on there. So sometimes you may have to guess if the numbers are not exactly on this. And this is an example of a line graph. In your handouts for this section, I have a PowerPoint on data interpretation for line graphs, bar graphs, circle graphs, and histograms. Now, you won't have to be familiar with histograms on the TEAS test, but it is also good to look at. So if we had a line graph, this would be like an example that was in your book. It's a relationship between two quantities. On the x-axis, I got mileage. On the y-axis, I got the car's values and multiples of $2,000. So if you want to particularly pick any particular mileage, you might be able to figure out what the car's value is worth. And if you went to a circle graph, it's also called a pie chart. Just remember, a circle graph represents the whole. So if you have your units of measure in percents, it's going to add up to 100%. If it's given in fractions, it's got to add up to 1. And so you can kind of see an example here. I'll let you work through this yourself so that I can go ahead and go to the next one. A bar graph is which either horizontal or vertical bars are used to represent a value. So we can see in 1980, 1990, 2000, 2003, the 4 or more years of college if a person's over age 25 or over. This is probably in percentages. Even though it's not listed here, it should have been. Then in a histogram, it's just a special type of bar graph. You have to understand what class intervals are. Instead of representing just one bar, it represents a range of numbers. Then you have your class frequency, which is the length or the height of the bar. Then you have your frequency distribution table, which is used to organize the data. So I've got a little example here. Got the data of student scores. I got my grading scale. So between 93 and 100, that's a class interval. Here's my class interval, tally, class frequency. So the number of students that made less than 78, there were 4, 78 to 84, 3. So when I graph my little bar, I can see this. Like I said, you probably won't have to worry too much about a histogram, but it is always good to know about these. Once you've looked at this example that's in your TEAS textbook, plus the ones that I just showed you that's on the handouts that's posted in Canvas, then you should be ready to do your practice problems. These are several different graphs. This might be a line graph or a scatter plot since the points are kind of scattered all about. Then you got your bar graph here, and then you got your pie chart or a circle graph here, and you got your line graph here. So the different problems are giving you examples on the different types of graphs that you may see in the medical field. So hopefully you'll be able to understand all these information that's on these graphs. If you have any questions, just send me an email through Canvas, and I should be able to look back at the problem and answer them. I've got these questions already worked out and posted the answers in Canvas. Good luck on this section.